Hi, this is Janelle Posey Green, and you're listening to Bohemian Black Girl Podcast on Green Ink Radio.
Hi, good morning.
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing well.
I'm so happy that you agreed to do the podcast with me. I'm really excited for our conversation. Can you please introduce yourself formally and just talk a little bit about your background?
Sure. So my name is Alicia Thompson, and I am the founder of AIM Theater. And so pretty much what AIM Theater is, it's just providing theatrical arts to help our youth navigate through the journey of, self-expression and personal growth.
That's actually really awesome. So where are you located in Connecticut?
So I'm located in Stratford, Connecticut, which is in Fairfield County.
Very awesome. Do you have a specific population that you tend to work with, or is it just open to any young women and girls?
So I work with the youth in general, and the population pretty much is ages 10 through 17. Anyone over the age of 17, I would love for them to be in a mentor leadership capacity.
That's really cool. I mean, I feel like we'll get into this a little bit later about what I feel is so fascinating about your specific program is the mental health capacity, where you really allow people to express themselves and otherwise where they probably would be afraid to. So I could see benefits, throughout the age span for something like that in both a leadership and a mentee position. So where do you draw your knowledge from? What is your background with education, or what kind of different fellowships maybe have you participated in that maybe gave you the inspiration for this?
Sure. So ever since I can remember as a little girl, I was always so thrilled about being involved with the arts. And it started when I was in school. I was born in Jamaica in the Caribbean. And so the school was going to be entered into a district-wide play contest. And so on the island of Jamaica, I was born in Montego Bay. Shout out to the second city, Kingston being first. And so in Jamaica, it's known as different parishes. So it was pretty much.
Wait,
the parishes.
hold on. That's so cool. I've never known anywhere else besides Louisiana who does that.
Yeah, right. So
wow. All right, you just told me something.
So then I decided, I said, I'd like to try out, because she really saw just how artistic I was. And so she's like, I think, we're going to have the school play, and I think you should be a part of it. And, it's going to be entered into a parish district-wide school play contest. So I said, sure. I talked to my parents, and I was a part of it. And so then, long story short, being a part of that play, I ended up at that age, just our school ended up winning. And not only did we win, myself and two other students were offered a 4-year scholarship for 4 summers to attend the prestigious school of the Edna Manley School of Visual and Performing Arts.
Wow. 4 summers? That's a commitment.
4 summers, yes. And so my brother at the time, my older brother, he was living in Kingston, so that worked out perfect. I stayed there for 4 summers with my brother, and just really dived into the world of not just theater, but just performing arts in general, music, movement. And I saw what it did for me. Granted, there were other students that were there that were either on TV, or even some adults that were our instructors. And these were people that were on TV. And so as a child, you're looking at them and it's like, okay, you have that surreal moment of, wow, this person that I've watched on television is now teaching me. And some of the other kids that were there, they, were in theater for a while. And so, as a child, you compare yourself to other children and kind of feel like, oh, wow, they're better than me in terms of their movement or their theatrics and the whole nine. But then my background that I come from with my parents and my family and even just my community in general, they helped me build that strong foundation. So, even though my confidence was tested, it didn't bother me that I felt that someone was more advanced than I was. So
I love that. I feel like that's an important message that you just kind of sent right there about the importance of kinship care, community, and our self-esteem, because you're right. When you're younger and sometimes older, your confidence can and will be tested. That's, normal, healthy, when you're developing a sense of self. However, if you have family, friends, and people around you to rally and, let you know, this is our reality, that's just foolishness. Stick with what we know, you're amazing. You can get past it. So thanks.
Yeah, thank you, because those are also just life skills that were being poured into me when I was that age, whether I knew it or not. So that's where I draw all of that from, and just using that now as an adult and trying to pay that forward to the youth to say, I can use theater as life skills training for them as well.
That's awesome. That's so cool that you're able to do these things in a safe and healthy way, that you are kind of, like you said, paying it forward in a way, because I feel like with the community centers gone, I don't know how it is in Stratford, but I live in Norwich, and Norwich, it's so sad. Like, there's nothing almost, unless you have money, and not everybody has the financial means to send 2 or 3, 4 or 5 kids to summer camp. Like, in past, they've had like Martin Luther King centers. They used to have a YMCA here and other things that have all been abandoned. Literally, they're abandoned buildings sitting in Norwich. It's really sad. So this is a different option, I feel like, that maybe could take off, and another option to just something else to do, So
yeah,
it's really cool.
Absolutely. And I know that, there, like you said, there are some programs that are being ran maybe in your area there. I think there's one called the Writer's Block.
Yes,
that
the Writer's Block.
Yeah, they're in your area there. And I know they do really great work with the youth that's in the community. But I don't know how much more other than that. And I think there's also Isaac that's out there as well that works.
Yeah, it's also a school that's in New London. Now, New London and Norwich are about 25 miles apart from each other. So,
I see.
If you're talking about a population that doesn't have a car sometimes, a lot of times, and the bus systems out here aren't very great either, being able to have access to those programs and the financial means to be able to put in.
On-site.
Yes,
it sounds like they need on-site services after school.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay.
That would be nice. They have some after-school things, and it's, they're trying. It's an acknowledgement, but it's a process. It's going to be a very long process, and there's a lot of people in our community that are fighting that good fight, but you still got a long way to go. So I actually wanted you to tell us a little bit. So I am very, very, very interested in allowing people in general, especially people of color, to express themselves with their hair and feel confident and beautiful and not have to compare themselves to Eurocentric standards of beauty. So when I learned about your one-woman show, I Am My Hair, I was just like, I have got to talk to this lady. Like, what? I saw it on YouTube and I just fell in love. I loved the messages throughout. So if you don't mind, if you can, give the listeners a little excerpt of, meaning like an understanding of what is your one-woman show, I Am a Hair, and what the messages behind that was and why you developed that show, because it's awesome. And I'm definitely going to put the link in the show notes.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. I'm just so humbled by that. And the way that actually came about was just on a whim. I was invited to a year-end dinner. This organization invited me to a dinner, this lady that I knew, and I wasn't sure of her motives, but I like to give people the benefit of the doubt and not be judgmental. So I said, I'm going to go. I'm going to be open. I'm going to go. And I'm so glad that I went, because even though the table that I sat at, I knew no one at the table, I quickly sparked up a conversation with one of the ladies that was sitting right next to me. And she's now a dear sister friend of mine. Her name is Kim Bianca Williams. She she's a professor. She teaches at a couple of colleges, here in Connecticut,
awesome.
and one in New York. And so she, was like, oh, so what do you do? And I said, well, by day I do this. And I told her what my day job was at the time. And I said, however, I'm a thespian. And she goes, oh, what's that? So I said, it's just an old school way of just saying a performer. I said, I'm a performing artist and I'm a writer. And so she's like, wow, what's the latest thing that you've done? I said, well, I haven't done anything in the last 2 years. The last thing I did was a featured film, and it won over 15 different festival awards, and it's still on tour. So she's
congratulations,
like,
by the way.
Thank you. It's called Tobacco Burn. So this is back in 2016. I'm having this conversation with this woman, like I said, who's now a dear friend of mine. And so fast forward, she says, would you, if you had the opportunity of, getting back on stage or just being able to, impact others or inspire others, would you do it? I said, yeah, it would be great. But, I have a family now, and I kind of just put all that to the side. And she's like, but it's your dream, right? I said, yes. So she's like, if you had the opportunity, if someone provided you with the opportunity to do that, would you? I said, I probably most likely would. So she gave me her card and she invited me over for tea. I walked into her loft, and there was a big screen that had my name and my face on there. I almost cried. And she said, welcome. Yeah, she said, welcome. She said, this space is yours to use if you'd like to do a performance here for the community. And so that's when I started talking about different topics with her, and the topic of hair came up. And I said, hair is still a big issue in our community, especially for women of color. Whether you're Hispanic, I know I have a lot of friends that are Hispanic, and there's that issue in that community as well, too. I mean, those are brothers and sisters, Hispanic, men and women. They have this issue. It's called pelo malo. And so that means in English, bad hair. So I decided there's something that I need to write about in this regard. And so that's how I Am My Hair started. And so I Am My Hair, it's 6 different characters, and it starts out with a little girl, and another character is her mom. Then there's a teenager. And then also there's a character. She's Rastafari, and she's just getting into, what locks is all about, and learning it from a man who's a Rastafarian. And then there's an old lady, the matriarch. So all the characters have different things that they go through. There's a businesswoman, and she's going through life worrying about losing 5 pounds and, am I going to sweat my hair out, and all this other stuff.
Yeah. I feel like every single character you could resonate with in a different, or someone who has some of those thoughts. So it's really cool. I'm sorry, keep going.
No, I was going to say, too, some things that I incorporated in there, where I had the 8-year-old child taking the doll test and not even realizing that's what she was taking. And I know a lot of people, know about the doll test, and some don't. And it's Ken Burns and his wife that had came up with that, I believe was in the 50s or the 60s, where they were giving the children the doll test, minority children, and seeing what doll they were choosing. And yes, they were not choosing the dolls that looked like them. And it's still the same today. We definitely have gotten a little bit better. And then her mom also is taking the doll test, and she realized that, I don't want to do this. What are you asking me questions about beauty and which, what doll looks better and what doll looks like me? I'm not going to do this. So she's feeling hurt because she's remembering things that's stemming from a child that is really painful. So they all go through all these different journeys and everything. So I'm just so grateful that the Lord really poured into my brain with this one woman show. And I do it,
amazing.
as workshops, separate workshops.
Do you have another one planned soon? How would someone follow you to get access to these workshops?
So normally sometimes, because right now I'm just consulting. So if someone was interested, they could definitely get in touch with me by my any of my social media handles, or just contact me via telephone and just say, hey, I have a program for youth or for a group of women, or, men and women, or even younger children, that I'm trying to get some activities going in dialogue. And normally when I do my workshops, it starts out with the theatrical performance, and then I go right into what I call the community discussion.
I love that model.
I've been invited before to be like, a guest speaker at different places. And I start out with theater and then use that to kind of drive, just getting people engaged and getting them, to just be interested in saying, wow, okay, what does she have to talk to me about? What can I learn?
Yeah, I love that model. I think it's important. A lot of us are visual learners, and if they see, they're looking at, what is perceived to be a child, because you're acting as if you're a child in that character, and they're seeing a child talk about things that we know we've all heard culturally that are negative things about, like our hair or our skin or just in general being a woman, and then being able to right then and there discuss what you just saw is I feel like it's a really, really cool format. I'm glad that you came up with that too, and I'm very anxious to go to one of your workshops. I would love to be there. I'm gonna make that my priority within the next year.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes individuals, if they want to say, hey, would you do a workshop for me? I'm looking for a program, or I'm having an event, and I'd like this to be one of the pieces that is done there. I do that. I've even done things that are, out of the box, where there's natural hair expos, and I'm up there performing.
All right. Well, we're definitely going to have to talk, because our Naturalistas Expo is coming up at the end of in fall. We do an annual one. Are you familiar with the Southeastern Naturalistas? You're a part of us, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm a part.
Are you in that group?
I'm a part of the group, and I do participate sometimes, but I don't think I've ever been to one of the events yet. But
every event we try to do it a little differently. Our big annual one is called Embrace Your Crown, and we're actively planning it right now. I don't have the full details yet, because we're literally actively planning it right now. And those of you who do not know what I'm talking about, because not everybody knows what the Naturalistas are, I started an online Facebook group called Southeastern CT Naturalistas to encourage people with curly, coily, wavy, kinky, Afro-textured hair to embrace it and own it and seek and see the beauty in it, and also so we can stop wasting money on trash products and say, yes, please buy this is great. Or if you're on a natural hair journey and sometimes you feel alone, this is a good spot to, hey, I just tried this new style after my big chop, what do you guys think? Or how can I get my twist outs to come out looking like this? What products do you use? Just kind of a grassroots community-based platform, so we can be united with our beauty. So I'm grateful that you followed and learned about it, because you're amazing, and it sounds like we need a collaboration.
Thank you. And speaking of crown, because you mentioned the word crown, I just want to mention this briefly. The Crown Act was recently passed. And so,
I saw that, the signing.
California became the first to ban discrimination against all natural hairstyles. So
that's amazing.
Waiting for all the states to follow suit on that.
Thank you for mentioning that. It's so sad that we're in the year 2019. I mean, I'm grateful that we're at a place where there are people who will stand up for what is right, but the fact that we have to justify just ourselves in our natural state in any place, specifically work, that's just, it's not a good place. That's one of the reasons I appreciate you having your show and being able to give like your gift of starting community conversations so people can get those thoughts turning like, well, you know, this did happen to me. It made me feel uncomfortable. And, you know, addressing it is half the battle, because a lot of times we'll put it in a category of normal. Like, oh, this is normal. I remember back in the day when I was younger, my parents, when they were about my age, like they would say like, oh, when you go for an interview, you have to do certain things like men have to get their hair cut. They can't have like a fro or braids. Typically we as women of color will straighten our hair, to try to look quote unquote presentable so we can get a job. So these types of laws are super important. So I'm really excited about it. Thank you for mentioning it.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Now, you did a TED Talk, which is so amazing. Like, it's so exciting. Like, I feel like any person who is a public speaker, this is one of the utmost platforms that you want to be on. So can you please give a little information about your TED Talk? And again, I will put that link also in the show notes because it should be seen. It's really good.
Thank you again. Thank you again for that. So the TED Talk that I did, it was done locally here in Connecticut, and the topic was community. So I had to write. Yeah, I had to write something from scratch, and I'm like, okay, well, what am I going to write about in terms of community? And I'm like, I know that TED Talks are normally done this way, but I like to be original, and, I go with what I normally know, and what is that? Performing arts, right? So I said I have to put theatrics in there. So what I ended up doing was I ended up using one of the characters from I Am My Hair, which is the teenager's character. I used her to open up the TED Talk, and then just to talk about self-esteem. So the title of the TED Talk is called "The Antidote to Low Self-Esteem."
Yeah, so creative.
Yeah, thank you. And so just going through and starting out like, bam, the teenager is in your face, just showing you, bringing you through her emotions of how mainstream media is doing destroying our youth. And just saying, because we open up a magazine, we turn on the television, we on our devices, on our computers, on the radio, just everything that we're seeing, we're just bombarded with images and information that's telling us to be something that, we're not aesthetically are. And so it's like, what's the point? And so being a teenager, there's so many pressures that they go through. And so I said, well, I'm going to link that to Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and then how community has to be there for our youth and to help build them up, help to build strong and resilient children. I have two daughters. I have a 19-year-old son too, but I also have two daughters, and I'm their role model. Not a celebrity. A celebrity is not their role model. I'm their role model, and my husband as well. Just collectively as, parents, we are their role models. And there's the old adage that says, a parent is a child's first teacher.
Yeah.
And so I see the difference in my girls and the things that we as, parents instill in them from such a tender age. When we go out, whether it's a restaurant or even if we're not around them, the report that we get about them is just amazing, amazing, amazing. So it's just all thankful to, in terms of like how we raise them, just using foundation scriptures and everything, and trying to raise our children in a world where the superficial standards of beauty is what's put out there, and just pushing our girls and even the young men just to have a low self-esteem and no class and just everything. It's like, no, I'm not going to feed into that. So it was really great to use that platform of TED Talk to bring that message. And I tell you, once I got off the stage, the emotions were just flowing through me, trying to come out of that in the character. Yeah. And then, I had a couple of people that stopped me and said, thank you. This one guy, he stopped and he said, thank you so much. He said, I have 4 daughters and I thank you so much for that message.
That's beautiful. And he's right. I have a daughter. I also have a son. I'm also a woman. And I feel we are raising children in a world that almost everything works against our home innate messages that we're sending our children. So it's equally important that you find information like what you're doing, like TED Talks, other types of things that can kind of supplement the messages that most of us are going to be trying to send our children, so they can also see what we're saying isn't just something that we're saying because we love them. It's because it's the truth that we have these messages of other standards of beauty. Yeah, of course, they're beautiful to some people, but they're not the only form of beauty. We're just as gorgeous. And to be, a lady doesn't mean that you're boring. So
Right.
I really am grateful for your messages as well.
Thank you. And just to add just a little bit further, my girls, because of what we've instilled in them, they had a Dr. Seuss read week in school, and then they extended it so that, because my girls love reading, they're avid readers, and they were like, Mom, the books that we got, they didn't have any brown children in them.
Mm-hmm. So they're culturally aware as well.
Mm-hmm. And I said, well, when you go back to school tomorrow, just ask the teacher nicely, do you have any books that have brown children? So they did, and they came back the next day, and they were excited. They showed me their books that they got, and they were like, Mommy, look, brown children. So, representation is so important, because representation, it really is important for children's self-esteem. And then even, just in terms of just beauty in general. Yes, it's important for them to, understand and know that they're beautiful, but that physical aesthetic beauty, it's not there forever. So your beauty that's on the inside, and just having a fear of, of the Most High, that is something with itself that's beautiful. Things that you say, okay, I'm going to set some goals, and I'm going to focus on my goals in life, whether I want to be a writer, I want to be a singer, I want to create things. Whatever those goals are, focus on those, and those things that are inside of you are going to exude. They're going to come out. And you're not going to have time to focus on so much what's going on in social media, so much of all the negative things that are going on in the world. You're going to be aware that it's around you, that's going on. But it's like, you know what? My blinders are on so tight, like a horse in a race. And I'm just looking forward to my journey, my goals to accomplish that.
Very awesome. I love how you tie in self-esteem and self-worth with your messages, and how you use theater and acting as a tool and a modality to be able to express and teach. Can you, let's talk a little bit about that, because I feel when we spoke in a prior conversation, I did let you know that, because my background is clinical social work, I understand how there are a lot of different parts of a person, not just an individual. So there's community, there's different parts of self, there's family, there's a lot. So when you're looking at wanting to help support someone, you can't just have a one-size-fits-all way of trying to help them. And one of the classes that I had taken was an arts class that helped with different interventions to help support teens and adults, and some children, but this one was specifically geared for teens and adults. And it had an acting piece in it where you would use theater to be able to help allow the people that you're working with to be able to express themselves in a safe way, where they're like, quote unquote, just acting, but they're acting out what their real fears are, or trying to act out what it would look like if they were safe in an environment where they normally wouldn't feel safe. Just things like that. So can you, give a little understanding of how things work for you. What do you think the connection is between theater expression and mental wellness?
Yeah, sure. So I have this quote that I kind of came up with out of the blue a little while back, and it says, life is a stage. Let's teach children how to get up and perform, because we all have to learn how to perform in life, right? So theater also have life skills in there that it's able to teach. And we know as teens, as youth, their life is unscripted. Children, they're trying to figure things out and navigate things out. Even us as adults, sometimes we're still figuring things out and navigating. So theater and that self-expression, it really helps because, in terms of working things out, like, okay, self-governing, if there's issues going on that you're dealing with, whether it's issues of self-worth, if they're not dealt with as a child, you grow up being an adult and you're still in that broken status. Yeah, you've never healed from certain wounds. And if you don't express yourself and if you hold it in, it's kind of like when you balled up your fist. I'm going to give you two analogies. The first one is if you have your fist balled up all the time and you're so tense and so angry or just so fearful or whatever feelings that you're having, if you never open your fist and release it, just physically, you're going to start having some bodily issues. If you're walking around angry, just health-wise, there's going to be some health issues that's going to, stress. And we know stress kills. It makes your hair fall out. So many things happen when you're stressed. So using theater as that gateway to navigate and now say, you know what, talking about it or acting it out and writing it down, journaling, or just showing up a picture, whether it's from a magazine or something from the internet or just a quick video and saying, hey, look at this. How are you interpreting or internalizing this? Because sometimes, too, a lot of it could be self-inflicted wounds. Where you are having a certain mindset, oh, I'm not good enough, or even if it's a child and they feel like, oh, okay, I don't, if I have another bite of that, then I'm gonna gain 5 pounds, and then, so just putting you into a mental tailspin, it just really messes with your psyche. You're thinking so many things that's not positive, blocking your mind totally. So when you can talk it out and act it out, that helps.
I was going to say a lot of times when I work with people, they one of the symptoms that they come to me for support with are negative thoughts, reoccurring negative thoughts, dialogue, self-talk, and racing thoughts, things that just aren't making sense necessarily, but it's just going through their mind. I never thought to connect it with, why don't you express it out, like using some form of acting or theater to be able to get out all those things that you're thinking negatively. So maybe you could see what it looks like, what you're saying to yourself, and maybe you might want to change it. It's actually a really cool concept.
It's like an analogy of, just using theater to inspire others to find that light. If you're sitting in a dark room by yourself and you're just sitting there and you never get up, just putting one foot in front of the other to turn the light switch on, that light switch is never going to come on. But it's also good to have someone there as a support to say, hey, I just walked in this room and it's dark. Do you realize it's dark in here? And then you turn that light switch on for the person. And then they realize, oh, wow, you're right. It was dark in here. Final analogy, my 10-year-old, she was in school and she kept saying, I can't draw. I'm no good at drawing. And she just kept putting herself down. And I said, honey, don't do that. I said, you can draw. I said, everything has a shape. She goes, what? I said, just take a deep breath. And then I pulled out a blank piece of paper and I said, I have an idea. Why don't you try drawing a dress? And she's like, but I don't know what a dress is. I said, don't worry about it. I said, what shape do you think a dress is? And she goes, a triangle. So I said, well, go ahead and draw a triangle on that piece of paper. So she did that. And I said, well, who's wearing the dress? Is it you? She goes, yes, it's me. So I said, well, draw your face. I said, are you smiling? I said, do you have breaths in your hair? What do you have? And so she draws a circle on top of the triangle. And I said, well, what color is the dress? Does it have flowers? What does it have? And so she drew some beautiful things on the dress. And I said, what about your arms and legs? Are they short? Are they tall? And so she did. I said, do you have something in your hand or no? Are you wearing something on your head? She drew a crown and a wand. And a smiley
That's my
face.
type of girl.
And I said, do you realize that you just created art? You drew a girl in a dress, and that dress, you are the girl in the dress. And you're smiling. You have a crown on and you have a wand. I said, what was happening? Because you kept telling yourself you can't and you don't. And you kept using that apostrophe T at the end. Mm-hmm. What I did, I just used the marker and I just kept drawing the letter T over what she drew. And then she goes, Mommy, I can't see it. I said, exactly. Because you kept blocking your mind with that T, you weren't able to see the beauty underneath what you just created.
Oh, I love that.
Ever since then, now she's doing these little comic series, and she's drawing these little stick figures with bubble words and everything. So yeah, so cool. It's just now amazing. So amazing.
I love how you were able to take the pressure off and allow her to reframe her thinking. That was cool. That's cool. Very, very cool. So I want to know, what are you working on now? You seem to be always doing something, and that's amazing. So what are you doing now?
So right now I am working on moving AIM Theater into I would love to turn AIM Theater into a nonprofit organization that I can benefit from. So that's what I'm working on currently in trying to turn that into a nonprofit, so that for some reason that you mentioned, you have children that need services right there in their school. I would love to be a nonprofit organization where I can now say, okay, I'd like to apply for a grant where, students in said community are able to get services right in their own school. Yeah. I'm just one person, so I can't physically be everywhere. So I would just love to get grant funding to say, hey, this program over here would love to collaborate and partner with Artistry's ministry, AIM Theater. So they have people lined up that can run an after-school program. So I wouldn't mind collaborating and applying for a grant so that those services could be funded for the children that need it right there.
Absolutely. I love that. And you could also possibly pair up with other either clinicians or teachers and even train them on the art of self-expression. So that way maybe there's some basic, different tools and techniques that we could use to be able to help think outside the box. Because the way I look at it when I'm working with people in general is, we're still multifaceted. And if one thing doesn't you don't just throw out the whole toolbox. You got to keep trying to dig in there to see if something else would work. And maybe this is a tool that you could teach other, professionals, so we can start utilizing this particular skill set as well.
Yeah, great. That's a great point. And now that you say that, it would be also beneficial to have some kind of cross-sector training too, because there are some things that I'm sure I definitely could learn from clinicians to now incorporate that back into, life skills for our youth and do some more for theater. So that's great. Another thing that
I know I would sign up.
Another thing that I'm actually working on too is next year I would like to. I have this one of the services I offer is for workshops. It's called Broadway in Your Backyard, and what that pretty much is, it's just creating a fit. You know how you have like Shakespeare in the Park, and they have every year it's the same Shakespeare play in the park. So I said, we need to have something called Broadway in Your Backyard, where we have our youth, it's their own work that's being presented in the community.
That's so cool.
Their own work in the community, or if someone has a play or something that they've written and want to collaborate on, we could kind of use that to say, as long as it's something that's teaching the community, educating the community, I'm all for it. So that's what Broadway in Your Backyard series is. And so next summer, I already have one that's lined up. It's the theme of that one. It's called I Salute You, Good Men. And originally it was a one-woman show that I did. And so I'm going to be auditioning out all the parts for that one. And just looking to do a community discussion afterwards where I would invite maybe people from like the Fatherhood Initiative, My Brother's Keepers, maybe some youth male mentors, because what it's about in terms of the I Salute You, Good Men, it's just really taking a step back and understanding that we have a lot of men in society that are doing great things in the community.
Yes, they are.
But they are underappreciated. And even going into like co-parenting, sometimes there's a lot of issues, whether it's through divorce or whether it's a man and a woman that they decide to, have a child, and then now afterwards they're not together anymore, and the relationship is just so bad. So how do we, raise resilient, strong, whole children without the parents not going back and forth with each other because, the man might have 4 other children with 3 mothers and those kind of dynamics. So community is just so important to me, and a healthy community is very important.
Yeah, I can definitely tell that's one of your passions. And it's important. I agree. I think that's one of the reasons that you and I have linked up, because I feel that is a similar draw for both of us, that we believe and understand the power of community. So I'm proud to know you. I'm excited that we're able to find each other. And
likewise.
I'm really looking forward to following you and all these amazing projects that you have coming up. Is there any, particular site that you would like listeners to go to see things from you, or do Instagram? What's your Instagram, Facebook that you might have, YouTube page? Can you let them know, how can listeners reconnect with you?
Sure. So they can contact me at artistryisministry@gmail.com. And I'm also on Instagram, AIM Theater, and theater spelled the old way, as in ending in RE, not TER, but TRE. So AIM Theater, that's my Instagram handle. I'm also on Facebook as Alicia Thompson, International Actress.
Very awesome.
And I do have a website that's called artistryisministry.com. They can go there and do a couple of things, but it is going to be facelifted. So I wanted to be transparent about that.
Okay.
Going to be going to.
Now, if you wanted a referral, if getting referrals, what is the preferred modality for that? Would that be an email?
It can be an email and or phone call. So I can be also reached at 860-306-5636.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me and share your knowledge with, my listeners of the podcast. And I'm really looking forward to collaborations in the near future with you. And I'm also very much looking forward to seeing the current projects that you have going.
Thank you for inviting me, to kind of just share being on this platform. It's really important. And, like I said, I definitely want to turn AIM Theater into a nonprofit organization, because at the end of the day, I don't need the shine. I'm just the vessel. So I want to use what when I was a child, for the community pouring into me, and for now that I'm adult, I want to be able to provide the same thing. Thank you so much for having me on the program.
Thank you.
Bye.